Turn up the volume, adjusting everything. Beautiful people. How goes it today? That's wobble. Top of the day, beautiful people. Top of the day.
I need something that I can use. I need something that I can use because I don't know design websites.
They are there, son. There are many of them there.
Yeah, they're hard to find.
All right, beautiful people. Let me check this again. Betwabble, yeah. Tiffany.
This may be wrong.
Don't turn it up. You'll have to wait or take it in there to the table.
Yeah, that was the doctor's.
Okay. Betwabble, beautiful people. Betwabble. I think I slept wrong on my pillow. I got a crook in my neck. Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all. It is Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. It is April the 29th, 2020. Day 133 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, otherwise known as the Old Testament. I think it's poorly named. It should be the law and the prophets, or some people call it the Torah, Yahuwah's word, the Tanakh, the Pentateuch, or I just like to call it Yahuwah's instructions and the prophets. All right, y'all. So today we are on day 133, and I decided we're going to go ahead and finish up Chronicles. So instead of reading the 3 chapters today, we're going to read the last 4. And tomorrow, we start the book of Ezra. I'm going to go ahead and get started this way. We can go ahead and get through it. All right. 2nd Chronicles chapter 33. Talane, Betwabu, Tara, Betwabu, hey. All right, y'all. 2nd Chronicles chapter 33. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 50 years in Jerusalem, but did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, like unto the abominations of the heathen, whom Yahuwah had cast out before the children of Israel. For he built again the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down, and he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. Remember, when they're talking about the host of heaven, that's like multiple gods, and them doing sun worship, worshiping the sun, moon, and stars. We're not supposed to worship the sun, moon, and the stars. We are to look at them and to keep time as Yahuwah has set it out. So that's not worship. It's like looking at a clock. And we understand that Yahuwah is the creator of all things. Am I going to read all the Ezras? Tiffany, do you know how long the book of 4th Ezra is? Oh my gosh. I mean, we could. We really could. Like, I really like it. I mean, we really could. Y'all, hold on. Let me see something real quick. I would love to, y'all. I really would love to. That is let's see, how far would that put us off? 4th Ezra. We could, y'all. It just seemed like it's long because the chapters are long. It's 16 chapters in 4th Ezra. Let's see. 3rd Ezra. What's this? It's 9 chapters. So it's not that long, Tiffany. It's not. I don't know that they're ready for these books though. But I mean, we could. Y'all let me know. Put down in the chat box if everybody up here, when we get to it, and I ask y'all again tomorrow when we start, if y'all want me to read all the books, because remember also, Nehemiah is considered the 2nd book of Ezra. So it's Ezra, then it's Nehemiah, then it's 3rd Ezra, and then it's 4th Ezra. I mean, we really could. Let's do it. Okay. We're going to do it, y'all. Oh my gosh. Whew. Y'all ain't going to be ready for some of this. I'm just saying. It's kind of scary. And since we're going to do that, when we get to Daniel, we're going to read the missing chapters of Daniel, too. Oh, Tara, good question. Technically, tomorrow would be a Sabbath, wouldn't it? Because it's Thursday, and according to the proper timekeeping, tomorrow is the Sabbath. So we'll come back to that question, Tara. The governor is getting ready to open Florida up. May the odds be ever in your favor, Thailand. No, seriously. Hey, just keep yourself safe. If y'all gonna go out there, a lot of people gonna go out there. I don't know. I'm just saying, y'all be smart. If you living in Florida, Thailand, be smart. If you gotta go to work, your job open back up, or you could possibly still be working, just keep yourself safe. Keep doing what you've been doing. Yeah, because the numbers are gonna spike up, whether they call it 5G or whatever. But people, I think they passing the germs back and forth, and it's I don't know. Maybe they just open back up because they just want to, Lord, let's go ahead and get this big blowout over with, and massive people get sick or whatever. Although some people believe it, some people don't. People are still dying, So y'all think they built all them hospitals that may be empty right now? Y'all think they built that for nothing? Y'all think they did all of that for nothing? Oh, those things have been prepared for a very specific purpose. They were right on time too. So, but if you Thailand, be safe. All right, y'all. But so I guess we'll do that. We'll read through all of Ezra, and we'll also read through all of Daniel, which they kind of cut it off and changed it. They call it Bel and the Dragon, which is talking about the dragon is the false god that the king had set up, and they were tricking him, trying to show him that that it was his God was real alive, but he wasn't. So when we get to Daniel, we'll do the same thing. The missing chapters from Daniel we'll add on, and I think when we get to Esther, let's see. I need to check that. I think we'll go ahead and read the books that were cut off from Esther too. We'll do that. We'll change it up that way. Okay, let me finish. I start off since I ain't really get past 2. Chapter 33 of 2 Chronicles. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 50 years in Jerusalem, but did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, like unto the abominations of the heathen, whom Yahuwah had cast out before the children of Israel. For he built again the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down, and he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worshipped all the hosts of heaven, and served them. Also he built the altars in the house of Yahuwah, whereof Yahuwah had said, in Jerusalem shall my name be forever. And he built altars for all the hosts of heaven in the 2 courts of the house of Yahuwah. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. And he also observed the times, and used enchantments, and used witchcraft, and dealt with a familiar spirit, and with wizards. And he wrought much evil in the sight of Yahuwah to provoke him to anger. So a lot of times they think that people think, like if they're not reading, they think some of the stuff didn't happen until the New Testament. That's complete fallacy. It was happening back here, which is why Yahuwah specifically commanded us not, it says, do not suffer a witch to live. Like there weren't to be any soothsayers, wizards, those who perform in witchcraft, all those things, mediums, those who read crystal balls, none of that should be among Yahuwah's people. Why? He said, because I am your God. You got questions about stuff, you want to know stuff, you come to me. You don't go to other things, other spirits, or works that people have created with their own hands. Come to the creator of all things, and I will answer you. Verse 7, and he set a carved image, the idol which he had made in the house of Yahuwah, which Yahuwah said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem I have chosen before all the tribes of Israel to put my name here forever. Neither will I any more remove the foot of Israel from out of the land which I have appointed for your fathers, so that they will take heed to do all that I have commanded them, according to the whole law and the statutes and the ordinances by the hand of Moses. So Manasseh made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to err, and to do worse than the heathen whom Yahuwah had destroyed before the children of Israel. And Yahuwah spake unto Manasseh and to his people, but they would not hearken. Wherefore Yahuwah brought upon them the captains of the host of the king of Assyria, which took Manasseh among the thorns, and bound him with fetters, and carried him to Babylon. And when he was in affliction, he besought Yahuwah his God, and humbled himself greatly before the God of his fathers, and prayed unto him, and he was entreated of him, and heard his supplication, and brought him again to Jerusalem and to his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that Yahuwah, he was God. Now after this, he built a wall without the city of David on the west side of Gihon in the valley, even to the entering in at the fish gate, and compassed about Ophel, and raised it up a very great height, and put captains of war in all the fenced cities of Judah. And he took away the strange gods and the idol out of the house of Yahuwah, and all the altars that he had built in the mount of the house of Yahuwah and in Jerusalem, and cast them out of the city. And he repaired the altar of Yahuwah and sacrificed thereon peace offerings and thank offerings, and commanded Judah to serve Yahuwah, the God of Israel. Nevertheless, the people did sacrifice still in the high places, yet unto Yahuwah their God only. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and his prayer unto his God, and the words of the seers that spake to him in the name of Yahuwah, the God of Israel, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel. His prayer also, and how Yahuwah was entreated of him, and all his sins and his trespasses, and the places where he built high places and set up groves and graven images before he was humbled. Behold, they are written among the sayings of the seers. That's another book, y'all. The saying, and I made a post the other day with some of the ones, and I pointed out the scriptures for the books that they mentioned that you may not have, but they're out there. Like, I would love to get the sayings of the seers. I don't know what that is. I really wish. I don't know. And we'll see. Like, because a lot of our history books have been burned, and some of them are hidden at the Vatican under lock and key. Like, under the Vatican, they have, like, a tunnel under the city of the Vatican that I think they said, like, with all the stuff, and I don't know how true, maybe 50 miles long, but it's really, really long. It's a whole lot of stuff, things that they've stolen, taken from different kingdoms, especially the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. They got a lot of our stuff, but a lot of stuff they've burned, you know. But some stuff, you got some people in there, they leaking stuff. I don't know how much they can leak, but some of the stuff that's been destroyed, what they don't have copies of, Yahuwah is just going to have to re-download that stuff to us. So to whomever he chooses, and he can rewrite it. I know that's possible because that's what he did with Ezra. He told Ezra, and we'll see when we get there, that's in the books that we're going to read this time around, 3rd and 4th. But he told Ezra to fast, and he began to reveal some amazing things to Ezra. Remember, Ezra was also one that helped the kingdom. He was with him and Nehemiah. He was one of the sons of the priest, and he would daily read the scriptures to the people, you know, so they could hear. Because remember, they didn't have multiple copies of it like we did today in any kind of dialect or language or whatever. They didn't have all that. The Levites, the priests, mostly, and the king held copies of the scriptures, and it was the priests who read it to the people so that they could hear the words of Yah, and they said, yes, we're here and we obey, you know. So when they heard it, they put it into action. When there was no priest there, when the priest had went into idolatry and caused the people to sin, nobody was hearing the words of Yah, so they didn't know what to do. They didn't hear it. So you had multiple generations that never even heard of it. So even when we get to Ezra, and when they began reading it again, and they began to restore things, the people, they would weep. They were weeping so much because this was the first time they were hearing the words of Yah, the words from the Torah, you know, that they said, oh my gosh, we've been doing all this wicked stuff we weren't supposed to be doing. They weep, and they were repenting. And Ezra had to tell them, matter of fact, during the Feast of Sukkot, he had to tell them, he said, listen, this is supposed to be a joyous feast. Y'all have to hold y'all tears. He said, during this period of time, he said, wait till after the feast. Wait till after the feast, and then you can continue that. He said, but Yahuwah has commanded us to be happy and joyous during this time. He said, because it represents when he's going to come and tabernacle among his people, when heaven comes down to earth. He said, that's what this represents. He said, so let this be a joyous occasion. He said, after this feast is over, you can go back, finish doing all your crying and your weeping and your making them, all that stuff. It's beautiful. Y'all going to really enjoy that part. Y'all really are. Okay. So back to what I was saying. But during that time, Yahuwah told him to fast and pray. And what he did in one of those periods of time, and I think it was a period, if I remember correctly, it was like a period of 40 days where he was fasting. Yahuwah told him, get some writers. He said, get some of the scribes. He said, get them with you. He said, now I'm going to give you the words of the books that have been destroyed. And you repeat the words to the scribes, and the scribes will write them out. He said, get ones who can write legibly and who can write fast. And he told them who to get. So he got them within a 40-day time period. The scribes and the horse, they had to have the anointing of Yah, the supernatural power sitting upon them during this time for them to write out that many books. It was 70? I forget exactly how many, but it was a multitude of books that were rewritten during that time of that period where Ezra was fasting and praying. May we all rededicate our lives to fasting and prayer. So those hidden things, like things that's going on behind the scenes that our government is not telling us, but they going running into hiding and stuff, because you know what? everybody gonna die anyway. Ain't no need of having extreme chaos right now. We don't need to. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I'm saying they know more information than what they're giving to the masses, and they do things to kind of keep the peace, and they kind of go into hiding. If it's something that they know is coming that they necessarily can't stop, they're going to save themselves first. Think about all the movies. They done prepped for all this. Think about the movies. People don't find out to the last minute. People in there find out they done gave us up. They done sold us up the river, so now they calling their family and the whole world going to chaos and stuff. I mean, they done prepared you for it, y'all. So by us living a life of prayer and fasting, Yahuwah will reveal those hidden things to his people, and we can be prepared. And we don't have to be freaking out, because he keeps those who keeps his commands, y'all. Okay. So that's the book right there. In verse 19 of 2 Chronicles, that's one of the books that was missing. It's called The Sayings of the Seers. So I don't know. If I ever come across that, I'll let y'all know. And I'll post it if I find like a PDF copy of it, but it mentions that here right there in that verse. Verse 20, so Manasseh slept with his fathers, and they buried him in his own house, and Amon his son reigned in his stead. All right, babe. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. But he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah, as did Manasseh his father. For Amon sacrificed to all the carved images which Manasseh his father had made, and served them, and humbled himself not before Yahuwah, as Manasseh his father had humbled himself. But Amon trespassed more and more, and his servants conspired against him, and slew him in his own house. But the people of the land slew all them that had conspired against King Amon, and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his stead. 2 Chronicles chapter 34. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. I used to think that Josiah was the youngest king, but Josiah was not the youngest king. We read earlier, I think it was in 1 Chronicles, and I forget his name, but he was 7 years old when he took the throne. So the earliest king was 7. And he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. And he did that which was right in the sight of Yahuwah, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand nor to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after Yahuwah, the God of David his father. And in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places and the groves and the carved images and the molten images. And they break down the altars of Baalim in his presence, and the images that were on high above them he cut down, and the groves and the carved images and the molten images he brake into pieces, and made dust of them, and strode it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh and Ephraim and Simeon, even unto Naphtali, with their mattocks round about. And when he had broken down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images into powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. That's what I'm talking about, Josiah. Now, in the 18th year of his reign, because a lot of time, remember, most of the kings, they stopped the pagan worship, but they did not tear down all of these. They decided, like Manasseh, after he repented from all his wickedness, he tore down all this stuff, but he left the high places. Remember, the high places were like worship places where they would worship the multiple gods, including Yahuwah. Yahuwah said, don't do this wicked thing. You cannot worship me at the altars of Baal. So Yahuwah said, they already been, if I tear them all down, let's start all over. He said, tear them all down. Don't worship me on something that you previously worshipped another God. And you can't worship us in conjunction to one another. He said, it's either me or it's none at all. He said, tear them all down. And King Josiah was the only one that did that. I mean, he everything, and then burned the bones of the priests and scattered them upon the priests that did not completely tear that stuff down, and allowed this foolishness and idolatry to go on. And when he had broken down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the grave images into powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. Now in the 18th year of his reign, when he had purged the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah, and Messiah the governor of the city, and Joah the son of Joahaz the recorder, to repair the house of Yahuwah his God. And when they came to Hilkiah the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of Yahuwah, which the Levites kept the doors, had gathered of the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and of all the remnant of Israel, and of Judah, and of Benjamin, and they returned to Jerusalem. And they put in the hand of the workmen that had the oversight of the house of Yahuwah, and they gave it to the workmen that wrought in the house of Yahuwah to repair and amend the house. Even to the artificers and builders they gave it, to buy hewn stone and timber for couplings, and to floor the houses which the kings of Judah had destroyed. Hey, guys, calm down. And these men did the work faithfully, and the overseers of them were Jahath and Obadiah, the Levites of the sons of Merari, of Zechariah and Meshullam, of the sons of the Kohathites, to set it forward, and other of the Levites, all that could skill of instruments of music. And they were the bearers of burdens, and the overseers, and were the overseers of all that wrought the work in any manner of service. And the Levites were scribes and officers and porters. And remember, when it came to anything, doing anything for the house of Yah, it was the Levites that were in service to do all these things. So anything that come to worship and doing anything, you know right off the top of your head, it's the priests or it's the Levites that's in charge of all of that. So don't put anybody out of place. Don't let somebody get yourselves in trouble. Anything that has to do with the house of Yah, it must be handled by the Levites. Still the same thing today. Got a lot of people in place that shouldn't be. And when they brought out the money that was brought into the house of Yahuwah, Hilkiah the priest found the book of the law of Yahuwah given by Moses. And Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the book of the law in the house of Yahuwah. And Hilkiah delivered the book to Shaphan. And Shaphan carried the book to the king and brought the king word back again, saying, all that was committed to thy servants, they do it. And they gathered together the money that was found in the house of Yahuwah and delivered it into the hand of the overseers and to the hand of the workmen. Then Shaphan the scribe told the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king heard the words of the law, that he rent his clothes. See what I'm saying? Same thing happened with King Josiah. They found this. They found it. They hadn't been hearing it. So when they hear the words of it, it causes your heart to break and it causes you to repent. You know, if you have a heart to do what's right and really follow Yah, it will arrest your entire being when you hear the words of it. It literally will shake you to the core. Like when our friend said, she said, girl, my soul shooketh. I love Natasha. I use that saying all the time of hers. Then Shaphan the scribe told the king, saying, Hilkiah the priest hath given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king heard the words of the law, that he rent his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Abdon the son of Micah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah the servant of the king, saying, Go inquire of Yahuwah for me, and for them that are left in Israel and Judah, concerning the words of the book that is found. For great is the wrath of Yahuwah that is poured out upon us, because our fathers have not kept the word of Yahuwah to do all that was written in this book. And Hilkiah and they that the king had appointed went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shulem, the son of Tikvah, the son of Hazrah, keeper of the wardrobe. Hey, chill. Now she dwelt in Jerusalem in the college, and they spake to her that effect. They went to a woman prophetess to ask, what be these words? Listen. And she answered them, Thus saith Yahuwah, the God of Israel, tell ye the man that sent you to me. Thus saith Yahuwah, behold, I will bring evil upon this place, and upon the inhabitants thereof, even all the curses that are written in the book which they have read before the king of Judah, because they have forsaken me, and have burned incense unto other gods, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be poured out upon this place, and shall not be quenched. And as for the king of Judah, who sent you to inquire of Yahuwah, so shall ye say unto him, Thus saith Yahuwah, the God of Israel, concerning the words that thou hast heard. Because thine heart was tender, and thou did humble thyself before Yahuwah your God, when thou heard these words against this place. Hey! and against the inhabitants thereof, and humbled thyself before me, and did rend thy clothes, and weep before me, I have heard thee. Also saith Yahuwah, behold, I will gather thee to thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered to the grave in peace. Neither shall thy eyes see all the evil that I will bring upon this place, and upon the inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king word again. Then the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of Yahuwah, and all the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests, and the Levites, and all the people, great and small. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that was found in the house of Yahuwah. Yeah. And the king stood in his place, and made a covenant before Yahuwah to walk after him, and to keep his commandments, and his testimonies, and his statutes with all his heart, and with all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant which are written in this book. And he caused all that were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin to stand to it. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of Yahuwah, the God of their fathers. And Josiah took away all the abominations out of all the countries that pertained to the children of Israel, and made all that were present in Israel to serve, even to serve Yahuwah their God. And all his days they departed not from following Yahuwah, the God of their fathers. See, when you have a righteous king in place, he will cause the entire nation to be blessed. But when you have someone that turns away from the law, he makes the entire nation vagabonds and tyrants. And that's why our nation is in a state of sin today. But he said he's going to raise up a king in the last day. All right, y'all. So, hey, guys, calm down. Turn it down. 2 Chronicles chapter 35. Moreover, Josiah kept the Passover unto Yahuwah in Jerusalem, and they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month. And he set the priests in their charge, and encouraged them to the service of the house of Yahuwah, and said unto the Levites that taught all Israel, which were holy unto Yahuwah, put the holy ark in the house which Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, did build. It shall not be a burden upon your shoulders. Serve now Yahuwah your God and his people Israel. And prepare yourselves by the houses of your fathers after your courses, according to the writing of David, king of Israel, and according to the writing of Solomon his son, and stand in the holy place according to the divisions of the families of the fathers of your brethren of thy people, and after the division of the families of the Levites. So kill the Passover, and sanctify yourselves, and prepare your brethren, that they may do according to the word of Yahuwah by the hand of Moses. Remember, y'all, it's Passover. They preparing the food. They about to cook the meat. They all getting ready to eat dinner together. Hey, Isaiah, Josiah, and Joshua. Okay, all three of y'all calm down. I'm going to come pull the cords. And Josiah gave to the people of the flock lambs and kids, all for the Passover offerings, for all that were present, and to the number of 30,000 and 3,000 bullocks. These were of the king's substance. The king provided the food for all the people during this time. You know, like I said, the priests were the butchers and the cooks and stuff. So they did all the preparation of the meat. Like I said, y'all have to retrain your mind what a sacrifice is. They're literally preparing the food, cleaning it, cutting it up, draining the blood. Yahuwah said, burn up the fat. Don't eat this part. But he sanctified the priests to do that. You know, so they were properly doing this. And then they were distributing the food to the people. All right, during the feast. But in your own home, of course, the men would do it or whatever. But specifically during the feast times, Yahuwah set the priests aside to do this, to kill the flock, which was going to be food in their bellies. And his princes willingly, verse 8, and his princes gave willingly unto the people, to the priests, and to the Levites, Hilkiah and Zechariah and Jahiel, the rulers of the house of Yahuwah, gave unto the priests for the Passover offerings 2,600 small cattle and 300 oxen. Coniah also, and Shemaiah, and Nathaniel his brethren, and Hashabiah, and Jael, and Jozabad, the chief of the Levites, gave unto the Levites for the Passover offering 5,000 small cattle and 500 oxen. So the service was prepared, and the priests stood in their place, and the Levites in their courses, according to the king's commandment. And they, hey, Joshua, calm down. And they killed the Passover, and the priests sprinkled the blood from their hands, and the Levites flayed them. And they removed the burnt offerings that they might give according to the divisions of the families of the people to offer unto Yahuwah, as it is written in the book of Moses. So they did with the oxen. So after they cleaned it, they slaughtered it, they distributed it to the people. Everybody gave thanks for this, the food, and then we're about to eat, y'all. That's exactly what it is. Listen. I read verse 12 again. And they removed the burnt offerings that they might give according to the divisions of the families of the people to offer unto Yahuwah, as it is written in the book of Moses. And so did they with the oxen. And they roasted the Passover with fire according to the ordinance. But the other holy offerings sod they in pots, or they soaked it in pots, and in cauldrons and in pans. They divided them speedily among all the people. And afterward they made ready for themselves and for the priests, because the priests, here, grab her, Jeremiah, because the priests, the sons of Aaron, were busy in offering burnt offerings and the fat until midnight. Therefore the Levites prepared for themselves and for the priests and the sons of Aaron. And the singers, the sons of Asaph, were in their place according to the commandment of David. And Asaph and Heman and Jeduthun, the king's seer, and the porters waited at every gate, that they may not depart from their service, for their brethren the Levites prepared for them. So all the service of Yahuwah was prepared the same day to keep the Passover and to offer burnt offerings upon the altar of Yahuwah according to the commandment of King Josiah. So everybody got to partake. Everybody that was standing watch, they continued to stay on watch, and the priests prepared their food as well for them. So that way everybody had a chance to partake. And the children of Israel that were present kept the Passover at that time, and the feast of unleavened bread 7 days. And there was no Passover like that kept in Israel from the days of Samuel the prophet, neither did all the kings of Israel keep such a Passover as Josiah kept, and the priests and the Levites and all Judah and Israel that were present, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah was this Passover kept. After all this, when Josiah had prepared the temple, Necho, king of Egypt, came up to fight against Carchemish by Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. But he sent ambassadors to him, saying, What have I to do with thee, thou king of Judah? I come not against thee this day, but against the house wherewith I have war. For Yahuwah commanded me to make haste. Forbear thee from meddling with Yahuwah, who is with me, that he destroy thee not. I'm going to explain this to y'all. Nevertheless, Josiah would not turn his face from him, but disguised himself that he might fight with him, and hearkened not unto the words of Necho from the mouth of Yahuwah, and came to fight in the valley of Megiddo. And the archers shot at King Josiah, and the king said to his servants, Have me away, for I am sore wounded. I mean, like, get me away from here. They done shot me, y'all. His servants took him therefore out of the chariot, and put him in the second chariot that he had, and they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died, and was buried in one of the sepulchres of his fathers. And all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. And Jeremiah lamented for Josiah, and all the singing men and the singing women spake of Josiah in their lamentations to this day, and made them an ordinance in Israel, and behold, they are written in Lamentations. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and his goodness, according to that which was written in the law of Yahuwah, and his deeds, first and last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. Okay, let me explain something. So the book of Lamentations, which comes directly after Jeremiah, was written about King Josiah. If y'all didn't know that, King Josiah, all that entire book was written about him. Jeremiah the prophet wrote that. Now, why would Yahuwah allow this righteous king that had just done all this stuff and turned the nation back to him? Why would he allow him to die? Because he didn't listen. He thought King Necho, he did not realize that Yahuwah had indeed sent King Necho to fight against the other country. He even tried to warn him. He said, Oh, king of Judah, what are you doing here? I got no quarrels with you. He said, Yahuwah has called us to come up against this country. He said, go back home. Don't meddle in this business. This has nothing to do with you. He said, because if you do, you're going to find yourself fighting against Yahuwah himself. King Josiah didn't believe that. And you actually see more detailed. That story is detailed in, is it Jasher? I think this story is detailed in Jasher or Jubilees, but I'm gonna find it for y'all and I'll post it here in the comments so you can read in more detail. But King Josiah had to know something was up because he wanted to disguise himself. Remember King Ahab is what he didn't believe, so he disguised himself. They knew. So why? That's what I don't understand. You are a righteous king. Like, the pride gets the best of him. But like, I hear from y'all too. And so, but he had to know that this King Necho could possibly have been right because he wanted to disguise himself so he could still go up and fight. And you know what happened? He got shot with an arrow and he died. One of the most righteous kings of Israel died because he didn't follow an instruction. That saddens me. It really saddens me. So those in power have to be careful. Like what he should have did after King Necho told him that he should have went and sought Yah. And just to be sure, but he didn't. He went and disguised himself so he can go up to the battle and fight. That was the day he sealed his death. Yeah. And they lamented for him for a very long time. All right, y'all. Last chapter of 2 Chronicles, which is the last chapter for today, is chapter 4. But since it's only like 23 verses, we just added it to today. So instead of reading 3 chapters a day, we're reading 4. So let me go ahead and quit burning my mouth and read. All right, 2 Chronicles, chapter 36, last chapter of the book. Then we start Ezra tomorrow. Then the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and made him king in his father's stead in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And the king of Egypt put him down at Jerusalem and condemned the land in 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And the king of Egypt made Eliakim his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem, and turned his name to Jehoiakim. And Necho took Jehoahaz his brother and carried him to Egypt. And Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and bound him in fetters to carry him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also carried of the vessels of the house of Yahuwah to Babylon, and put them in his temple at Babylon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and his abominations which he did, and that which was found in him, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and of Judah. And Jehoiachin his son reigned in his stead. Yes.
I need to have him charge in the floor.
Okay, give me 1 second. I'll help you do that. Jehoiachin was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem, and did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah. I mean, how you 8 years old already acting a fool? Like, who raised you, bruh? And when the year was expired, King Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babylon with the goodly vessels of the house of Yahuwah, and made Zedekiah his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah his God, and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet, speaking from the mouth of Yahuwah. Remember when they start acting a fool? They don't listen to the priest. They turn the people away. Yahuwah sends the prophet. But he didn't even listen to Jeremiah the prophet. And he also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who made him swear by Yahuwah. But he stiffened his neck and hardened his heart from turning unto Yahuwah, the God of Israel. Moreover, all the chief priests and the people transgressed very much after all the abominations of the heathen, and polluted the house of Yahuwah, which he hallowed in Jerusalem. And Yahuwah, the God of their fathers, sent to them by his messengers, raising up betimes or many times, and sending, and because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they mocked the messengers of Yah, and despised his words, and misused his prophets, until the wrath of Yahuwah arose against his people, till there was no remedy. Therefore he brought upon them the king of the Chaldees, who slew their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young men or maiden, old man, or him that stooped for age. He gave them all into his hand. And all the vessels of the house of Yahuwah, great and small, and the treasures of the house of Yahuwah, and all the treasures of the king and of his princes, all these he brought to Babylon. And they burnt the house of Yahuwah, and brake down the wall of Jerusalem, burned all the palaces thereof with fire, and destroyed all the goodly vessels thereof. And them that had escaped from the sword carried he away to Babylon, where they were servants to him and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia. to fulfill the word of Yahuwah by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths. For as long as she lay desolate, she kept Sabbath to fulfill 70 years. Tara, yes, we're going to observe it tomorrow. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, the word of Yahuwah spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished. Yahuwah stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and he put it also in the writing, saying, Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth hath Yahuwah, the God of heaven, given me. And he hath charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah, who is there among you of all his people. Yahuwah, his God, be with him, and let him go up. So, and that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. So we're going to get more into that in King Cyrus. And you know, you got this big talk about President Trump being, I mean, you got Israel, we got the European converts over there in the land, over in Northeast Africa, you know, hailing President Trump as the modern day King Cyrus and everything. I don't know about all that. I don't know where they even got their prophecy from and how they even following that. But this is where they pulled that from. If you didn't know, they're taking this particular thing right here when King Cyrus was alive. And they're kind of applying that here today, you know. So, but I ain't even gonna get into that. But I hope you enjoyed the reading for today. We finished reading. Hey, chill. We finished reading 2 Chronicles. That was the last 4 chapters, 33, 34, 35, and 36. Tomorrow, y'all, we start at. Not tomorrow, because technically tomorrow is a Sabbath based on how we're tracking. So it will not be tomorrow, y'all. It's going to be Friday. So let me go ahead, and I already got it written here too. Sabbath. I already got it. Sabbath. So I'll see y'all back here Friday, and we will start Ezra, y'all. So let's go ahead and do this blessing on today, April the 29th, 2020, day 133 of reading through Yahuwah's law, his instructions, and his prophets. And the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise shall you bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I, Yahuwah, will bless them. All right, y'all. I love y'all. And I'll see y'all bright and early. 7 a.m. I know I'd be up here between like 7:15 to 7:30. It's the whole house up, and I try to make it 7 on the dot. But you know, you see me come in between 7:15, sometimes 7:20. But I'm gonna make an extra effort and start being on time at 7 a.m. every morning, y'all. So we'll stick to it. So y'all know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, 7 a.m. Pam live. Even if I got to be live and they hollering in the background, and you see me get them calmed down real quick, we're gonna be here 7 a.m. bright and early. Friday morning. And Friday morning is May the 1st. All right, y'all. Love y'all. See y'all Friday morning. Enjoy the Sabbath tomorrow. Rest if you can. Most of y'all home anyway. So
can I still do the
rest.
Tomorrow?
Peace. No. Okay, little girl. Come on.
I can't?
Jeremiah, it's a Sabbath. Don't get brand new. Like you don't know what you ain't supposed to be working on the Sabbath. Go ahead.
So look.